Alright, so sorry about that. I had a problem getting my camera rotated, but that's okay. Alright, so for today's tutorial, here's the earring that we're going to be making. It's just a simple little Russian leaf with some accents on the side. And then there's a Swarovski drop pendant bead added here at the center. And then we come up and made a little fancy loop using a wire guardian. And I made this ear wire using a rose gold eye pin. Alright, so here's what I'm using today, and you guys can use whatever you like. You do not have to use Delicas to make a Russian leaf. You can use seed beads, but for purposes of the way that I'm doing things, it'll be best to stick with 11s on everything if you can. Alright, so for my Delicas, I'm going to be using as my base on the earring are size 11 transparent Luster Lavender-Blue, and the DB number is 0117. Then I'm using some Toho seed beads for the accent beads here on the outer and inner edge. I'll be using these Tohos right here, size 11, and they are Milky Amethyst Silver Lined Permanent Finish by Toho. And there is a number here, but I'm not positive, you guys, if that is the Toho number or if it is Eureka Crystal Beads number, but I'll read it to you. It is P like Paul, F like Frank, 2108. And then for the accent, actually for the beads that I use to add the crystal and to add my loop at the top, I'm using these also by Toho, size 11, Rose Gold Permanent Finish Galvanized. And then the number I have here, Toho Seed Bead 11, is dash P like Paul, F like Frank, 551. And you'll need 2 ear wires, 2 of your drop beads, and I have this written down. If you guys give me just a second, I will bring it up and tell you exactly what that is. The size and everything. It is size, it's an 11 millimeter, and that would be measured from tip to tip. And that's in Tanzanite. And then you'll need 2 wire guardians. You do not have to use these. You can just use a few more of the rose gold seed beads, and we'll talk about that when we get to that point. But I like to put the little horseshoe wire protector on. It gives a little bit better, more professional look to the earring, I think. It's something this beautiful. And you're going to need a stop bead, a beading needle. I would say stick with size 10 or 11. We're not really using any really small beads. And we don't really have to go through the beads too many times except for the Delicas, and they have larger holes anyhow. So I use a size 11 pony, and I've got a couple of feet of 6-pound Fireline already threaded on my needle. And I'm using, in this case, the new black satin. So we're going to start, we're going to go ahead and put our stop bead onto our thread. So go through your stop bead once, carry it down, leave yourself a little bit of thread down here at the bottom, a little bit of tail thread, then come back through from the tail end up and put a little thread bridge on the outside edge of your stop bead. So the next thing we're going to do is start our first row. And to start, we're going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead, and then 9 of our Delicas, 7, 8, 9. Bring those on down to to your stop bead. Then you're going to pick up one more seed bead and 1 more Delica. Just like that. Bring those down. And we're going to be working, here's my tail thread here by the stop bead. We're going to be working from this end back. So what we want to do is get, a pretty little decent grip. You can leave the work laying down if it's easier for you to follow that way. But what we're going to do is skip over these first 3 beads. So remove those 3 delicas out of the way. Oops, sorry guys. Let me try that. I'm going to zoom in just a little. All right, so we're going to move the first delica, seed bead, and delica out of the way. And we want to come back through this 4th delica right here, working towards the tail thread. And I'm going to pinch and pull. And it doesn't matter if my work doesn't cinch down right away, because I can just hold on to it there and it will pull up just like that. And here's what you want your work to look like. You'll have this little seed bead here on the end. That's our first accent bead. Then you're going to have 2 delicas sitting side by side in this delica that you just went through. And now, once you do that, you can just peyote up with your delicas. So we'll pick up a delica, we'll skip one, and go through the next, just like regular peyote. And in case anybody's wondering, I learned this from the Jill Wiseman tutorial on the Russian leaf. So we're going to pick up another one, skip over the next one here, and pass through the next one. So skip one and go through the next. And this is how you create essentially row 3 of a peyote strip. When you first pick up, you're actually picking up beads row 1 and 2. Then when you do your first stitching of the row, that's actually row 3. Okay, so pick up another one, skip one, come through the next. And to me, peyote is always hardest the first few rows. It's very fidgety. So here we are, we're almost to the end. We're going to pick up a delica, and we're going to come through that 11-0 seed bead, just like that. And I'll cinch everything up and give you a look. So now you can see that that looks just like a regular peyote strip. Now I'm going to flip my work, just like this. It's easier to see if I lay it down because my camera, my phone gives a little bit of glare on those really shiny beads. So now what we're going to do is flip our work. We're going to pick up a delica and pass through our first delica sticking out, just like regular peyote. And yes, I am kind of looking at my notes because I don't do this very often. So I've got a delica on my needle. My thread is coming out of this seed bead. I'm going to pass it through this delica right here in my first little set of 2. And I'm going to do this up my beadwork, but I'm not going all the way to the end. I don't think. I'll have to check my notes, but let's just keep rolling. To make the Russian leaf, this is actually diagonal peyote, and to make the Russian leaf, what you do is on one end of your beadwork you do a decrease, and on the other end of your beadwork you're doing an increase. And that's how you get this beautiful diagonal effect. Alright, so I've got one more to go before actually 2. So we're going to put this one in. I guess I better zoom out just a little. There. Okay, let me double check and make sure I'm telling you right. Alright, hold on just a second. Alright. Now so we're going to do the decrease. Well, I'm kind of confused. Let me just try it and we'll see what happens here. Alright. So in order to do a decrease, you want to stop 1 Delica shy from this end of your beadwork. And what you'll do is pick up the seed bead, pick up one of your seed beads and a Delica, and come back through. We're going to flip the work like this. And now we're going to be coming out right here. We did not complete this row by going through that Delica. So we pick up a 11-0 and a Delica. Now we're going to pass back through the Delica sticking out, going in the opposite direction. Got myself just a little confused this morning. Sorry about that. But things happen. Alright, so now when you pull everything into position, let me lay it down. You see here that this is my first outer edge seed bead. And I'm already working on a diagonal because this, the next accent bead here is up a little bit. And when we get back up to this end, we're going to be doing an increase. If that makes sense. Once you do it a few times, you'll get really used to it. So pick up a Delica. Now we're just going to peyote up to the top of this row. Go through the next one sticking out, just like regular peyote. I don't know why I keep getting so close in. All right, there we go. Pick up another one and go through the next one sticking out. And this is why I'm saying the first few rows for me are the hardest, because it's just really narrow and it's hard to keep your place, but take your time and make sure that you're going through only those beads that are sticking out. I'm going to pick up another one, because this time we're going to go all the way to the end of the row. So I'm going through that last bead that's sitting next to the accent bead. And like I said, if you have trouble with the Russian leaf following my directions, you can go watch Jill Wiseman's video. It's excellent. All right, so now we need to do the increase here at the top. So, okay, there we go. So to do that, you're going to pick up 3 beads. You're going to pick up a Delica, a seed bead, and a Delica. And this time, I want you to just go ahead and drop those down to your beadwork. And note the way that my position of my beadwork. Here's my stop bead, right? Here is the 3 beads that I just picked up. Take your needle, come back through the very first one you picked up, the one that's closest to your beadwork, back towards yourself, and pull. Try to keep that one bead closer to your beadwork, like that. And what you want to happen, and you'll have to fidget with this stuff a little bit, because I do, and that's just part of it. What you want is you want that seed bead and Delica to sit side by side. In the grand scheme of things, that seed bead should be going over to the other side towards my stop bead. But right now, it doesn't really matter that much. It'll straighten itself up here in a second. And then when we come back up through this row, we'll really pull it into position. But once you've got those 2 beads, the important part is to have them sitting side by side like that, like a peyote stitch. So now you want to pick up a Delica and come through the next sticking out Delica. And once you do, you see how that little seed bead pulled itself around to the side, closest to the stop bead, which is where it needs to be. Now we're going to come back down, and once again, we're just going to pick up one, go through our sticking out. It's me saying something to me. Hi, Linda. Give me just a second here. I'll come and talk to you in 1 minute when I get down this row. And what I want you to do is come down, peyote stitching down, till you get right there, the second of the last, and you do not want to pick up one and go through this last bead right here, because we have to do our decrease. Just hang on a second. I want to see. I've got to get my chat over here. That's somebody talking to me. That's fantastic. Right. Oh, thank you, Linda. Linda says, congratulations on your video. And I said, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Um, thank you for being with me. I love it. Um, thank you for the thumbs up, too. So now we're down here, and we're going to have to do our decrease again. And each time we do the decrease, just all we have to do is make sure we pick up our seed bead first, then our Delica. And you can flip your work if it's easier for you, which it usually is for me to go ahead and flip the work and then work in the same direction each time. So now I'm going to come back through this first Delica sticking out of the row I just finished. And when you pull it together, there's your third accent bead there. So now we're going to peyote all the way back up our strip like that, or down. In this case, I'm working downwards. That's okay. That's no problem. I'm just so grateful you're here. So I'm picking up, coming through. If you guys have any questions, feel free to jump into the comments there, and I will get to them as quickly as I can. So now I'm coming up down here to where I made the increase. I've got my Delica on my needle, and I am going to come through that top Delica, sitting next to the seed bead, where we created that increase. And this will pull everything into shape nicely for our peyote. Everything's looking good. Now we got to do another increase. And what we're going to do is we're going to do this until we have 9 beads on each edge of this strip. So we'll just keep working. And the live version is different from, normal video, because normally I would just go ahead and say, okay, you guys go off and do your thing and meet me back. And I would be able to pause all of it, but since it's live, I'm just going to have to keep going. All right, so I put my 3 beads on. I dropped them to my beadwork, and I'm coming back through the first bead I'm at. I put on my needle right there towards myself. Then I'm going to position my little beads just a little bit so they sit side by side like I want them to. Takes a little tug work, and sometimes I'd have to take the needle. The seed bead and the Delica are different sizes, so it takes a little finagling to get them to sit beside each other. Okay, so now we have to go back down and do our decrease. Pick up a bead, pass through your sticking out beads. And every time you make that increase, when you make your next stitch, it really helps pull the rest of that into shape if you're struggling with it. So just go ahead and make your next stitch without fussing too much over it. And you can shape it up later. That's sweet. Tell your mother I hope she gets well soon. I'm just going to work on to 1 stitch shy of the finishing the row, and then do another decrease. Now always remember to pick up your seed bead first when you're doing your decrease. So now I'm going to go back in the opposite direction through the Delica sticking up closest to where my working thread is, and pull that little accent bead right into place like that. All right. I've got a broken Delica here. I'm going to move it out of my way because I keep trying to pick it up. I really love this color of Delica. It is so beautiful. I just made a little order and ordered some Delicas that were on sale at Fusion Beads right now. If you guys want a little tip on how to save a little money on these little bit more expensive beads. I am not to the point yet where I can go buy the bulk. I do not make that much money yet from this jewelry business. So I'm trying my best to stay within my means. I've picked up my 3 for my increase. Let them come on down. I'm going to come back through the first bead I picked up, the one closest to my beadwork. Now pull all that down into position. Give that just a little wiggle. Come on, Toho, you can fix right over there. All right, I'm not going to play with it too much because when I put my next stitch in, picking up one coming through, sticking out, we'll see if that pulls everything nicely. I do have to finagle just a little. My seed bead is not wanting to sit nicely. Now I got it. Alright, so I'm going to come on down to my decrease. I had to turn my air conditioner off because I sit right next to it and it's really noisy. And it's starting to get a little warm. These are really easy to make because, in essence, once you get your first 2 rows added, you know, the 9 beads and everything, you're actually only doing 3 or 4 stitches going each way on each additional row. So it's not really that much of a big deal to do. I'm doing my decrease. Picked up my seed bead first. Going back in the other direction now to situate my accent bead and start my row. Work all the way to the top. And then I'll do my increase. Once I do my increase, I'm going to count and see how many accent beads I have. There's my increase beads. Come back through the first Delica I picked up right there towards myself. That one went into place pretty easy. It's almost scary. Okay, now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I know I have to do my rows 4 more times. So let's go ahead and get them done. We'll work our way down towards our decrease side. Position my accent bead the best I can towards this outside. It's not that important. When I come back up, I'm going to get into that Delica and that'll straighten everything out. It's little things like that I'm a little bit compulsive about. But since I'm on your all's time, I'm going to go this way. Alright, so now I've come down. I'm stopping shy so I can do my decrease. Seed bead, then the Delica. Go through that first sticking out bead, back in the opposite direction. And when we get our beads, 9 beads on each way. Now see, I've got my last bead on and to finish this row. So what I'm going to do, because my beads are sitting a little weird, I'm just going to go ahead and poke through my Delica like I need to. And that will bring those 2 beads around to the correct position. And then I can do the next increase. Delica, seed bead, Delica. Bring them down. Hold your work. And come back through. Yeah, it's just a Russian leaf, Linda, but when you get to the part of embellishing, I've never seen anybody do one like this. I just figured it out on my own a little bit, and I thought it looked really beautiful. And this is the first piece of jewelry that I ever sold. I sold a pair of these, and then I really got the bug. And the pair I sold were exactly like this, and I had enough Delicas to do another pair. So I thought, you know, what the heck, somebody asked me to do a video for this pair of earrings. It's been several months back, but I'm finally getting around to it. And I'm going to try to be doing at least 1 or 2 YouTube videos or lives, I mean, a month. But, you know, it may work out that I can do more. I have a website I'm building of my own. I'm trying to, you know, do patterns for sale. So if you'll go over to my website and check out my jewelry and patterns, and I didn't put the links in right now, but I mean they're on my channel page on YouTube, and I have a Facebook group and a Facebook page. I have Pinterest and all that stuff too. And I'll put those links in when I finish today's live and, you know, do some editing on the actual posted video. All right, so it's time for my decrease. And so I need to pick up my seed bead. But you guys could really help me out if you could, you know. Oh, and one other thing too that really helps me, it doesn't cost anybody anything, is if you sign up for my Skillshare, if you sign up for a 2-month free trial on Skillshare.com through my link, I actually make a little money just for you signing up for a free trial. And that would help me a lot. But once you get on there, that's an amazing space on the internet, because there are classes for everything under the sun on that Skillshare.com that you can think of. I mean, from the extreme technical internet and computer things, all kinds of creative crafting, cooking, just anything you can think of, it's on there. It's really excellent. And if you decide to teach on there, we can both make some money. Just let me know if you're interested in teaching. I'll send you a link that gets us paid. And so I'm needing to do this increase. Let's drop that down. Come back through this first one I picked up towards myself, just like that. And I'm left-handed, so I'm hoping that, you know, you guys are able to figure out exactly what I'm doing. That's why I talk a lot and say every little thing that I'm doing. All right. I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I got 2 more to go. I'm just going to work my regular peyote. Picking up one, coming through the sticking out. Stop one shy at the end of the row. Decrease with a seed bead and a Delica. Go back the other way through the first sticking out. So when I do the next increase, that'll be 8 accent beads. We'll only have 2 more to go after that. 1 on each end. Come all the way to the top of your strip through the Delica with your, and do our little increase. Picking up the Delica seed bead Delica, bring it down, come back towards myself through the first Delica I picked up. Pull it around, get it close to the beadwork. If you have to, you can always pinch right there and bring it in. Like that. Wiggle your little seed bead till it's come into position close to the side by side. Do your next peyote stitch on this row. Pick up a Delica, come through the next sticking out Delica. So we're about to get this first half of the earring done. Okay, give me just a second, honey, and I'm going to read all your stuff, and I'm going to talk to you a minute. As soon as I do this last little decrease, seed bead Delica, my last little increase. So I'm going to pick up and go through the other way now, going back in the opposite direction. We're going to work all the way. Make sure you only go through the sticking out Delica. I have a bad habit of getting through one extra there sometimes. I love this Russian leaf, but here's something I'm going to talk to you guys about. Jill did a video too, Jill Wiseman, about, how to stiffen this beadwork with something called Protect-A-Clear, which is extremely expensive. But in the video, she mentioned something or another about Florex. So I did a little research on different ways you can actually stiffen up your beadwork, because over time this will break down, and if you stitch a little bit loose, it's not going to have the right hold the right shape to begin with. This one is a little loose. So here's an option that took me forever to figure out, but I figured it out. Future Floor Finishing Wax. You can get it at the grocery stores and Walmart and places like that. But the person's advice that I was reading today said, you don't dip it. Like on the Protect-A-Clear, you can dip it in, but that stuff is like $25 a can. You have to have a ventilated area to work in with it and all this kind of stuff, which eventually I might get the money up to try some. But for now, I'm going to get a bottle of the Future Floor Wax. And what you do, I'll do a little quick tutorial on that when I get the product, but you apply it with a little tiny paintbrush. So look forward to me figuring that out by next week sometime. I have big plans of getting that floor wax this weekend. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Last one. We need to pick up our increase, Delica, Seed Bead Delica, and bring them down. Come back through the first one we picked up towards ourselves, just like we've been doing. Finagle our little beads up here. Try to get our little Toho to behave. And then we're going to work our way back down the beadwork. Alright, that Toho just does not want to oblige me. There we go. Okay. So I'm coming back down just like we have on all these previous rows, because that increase is a row of beadwork. It starts a row, so we have to come back down. And what we're going to do this time is we're not going to stop short and do a decrease. We're just going to come all the way down. And since we won't be going back up here, you do want to try to make sure that you can get that little booger right there to sit towards the center, the Toho. Alright, so I'll put this stitch in. This is where I would have stopped if I was going to do another decrease. But since we're not, pick up one more Delica and come on through that last Delica, but just the Delica. And here's where your thread should be coming out. And it looks really pretty. And I just love that right there. So now what we need to do, we just made this side of our earring right here, along this side. So now we need to come to where we can work and make this half. And to do that, we're going to weave back through this diagonal peyote. And where we want to come out is here, where our stop bead is. When you weave through diagonal peyote or any peyote, you have to take a quick look at where your working thread is. So my working thread is right here under that seed bead. So where I want to go back through in the opposite direction is this one right here. See if I can get that to show up a little better. It's on the same row as that Delica that I was exiting. So when I pull my thread through, it sucks right into that little intersection here. So now I'm coming out of that next bead over, but towards the bottom. So now we can maneuver a little bit more easily. I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go into the bead right next to that one row over, like that. And then I'm going to try to get as many beads on the diagonal as I can. So I have to look at it because I don't want to make a mistake. Once you get in that bead, you can wiggle diagonally through your beadwork like this and move up a few beads. And you can see that, oh, that reflection's horrible, but you can see I'm coming through about 3 or 4 of my Delicas just like that. If you don't follow this part correctly, you'll have exposed thread showing on top of your beautiful strip of peyote, and you don't want that. Alright, so now I'm coming out. Let me get a closer look where I can actually see, folks. Alright, so now I'm coming out right there, and I want to come down a bead. And I'm going to come down a couple of beads right next to it where I'm coming out towards the end of my peyote strip, like that. And see my thread sucked in nicely, so I don't have any exposed thread. Maybe if I zoom out a little, I can show you better. Okay, let's see. Here we go. How do I make that go away? Oops. Sorry, guys. Hold on. Having a little issue here with my chat, and I don't know how to make it go away where I can actually see what I'm doing. There we go. Sorry. Must have hit the wrong button. I was going to zoom out just a little, and let me see if stop. Oh, why is my thing acting strange? Alright, anyway. I guess that's as far as I'm going right now. So now I'm coming out down here. And I'm coming out of a Delica close to the edge of my beadwork. I'm actually coming out of this bead right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move directly over to the bead next to it that's right here on the edge of my strip. Right there under that seed bead, if you can see it. And I'm getting close to where I want to be. I want to be down here at this little tail thread. So now that I'm in an edge bead, it's really easy to get where I want to go. I want to pass through the next 2 beads on the edge, just like that, on a diagonal. Keep in mind you got to hit that diagonal. Try not to get hung up on your beadwork. And so now I'm coming out of this bead right here. I can hit the next 2 little diagonals. When you're doing your weaving, don't pull too tight. You don't want to pull this beautiful thing out of shape. So I'm coming out of that one. I can go through these next 2. If I can get around my little Toho right here. There we go. Alright. Now I'm going to come down one more right there at the edge. Make sure not to loop under my thread. So that puts me right here to this bead. There's the Delica, the one right next door. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back up through that Delica and that seed bead, just like that. And get rid of my stop bead just by pulling it off. And now we want to start on our other side. Now, if you'll notice that this is going to be our center bead, just like the one sitting here in the middle of the V. Right there. And that one has a Delica sitting on beside of it to my right. So we'll want one sitting to the left of it. So pick up a Delica and pass through the Delica sticking out right underneath that 11-0 seed bead, just like that. And now when you pull it, you'll see that you have a Delica sitting on both sides of that center bead. We're going to come on down this strip. but we're not going all the way to the end because we already have our center accent bead down here sitting there waiting for us. We are going to do a decrease, which will add the opposite bead of this one right here. So, Seed Bead Delica. Working in the opposite direction, pass through your first Delica sticking out of the row you just made. Here's a little tip. When you're trying to pull your beads into position, if they pull out of shape just a little bit in this kind of work, pull the thread across the side you already have made. And that kind of snugs things in a little bit for you without, if you pull too hard somewhere or something. Simple little trick. Now we're going to come up and do an increase, so we're going to peyote this row all the way to the top. You don't want your Delicas to get hung up on any of your other ones, so watch really close about that. Right, so now I'm coming through this top bead, so I'm all the way back to the top. And here's where I'm going to do my increase, just like we've been doing. Let me slide these beads up a little bit. Had a small earthquake. Alright, we had to pick up our Delica, Seed Bead Delica, and bring them down, just like we did on the other side of our beadwork. And we're going to come back through the first one we picked up, the one that's sitting right here, closest to our existing work. But that is one of the three that we just picked up. Now, you see I have just added this accent bead here across from this one. Excuse me. When I make my next stitch, by picking up Delica, come through the next sticking out, it makes that stitch nice and firm. So when I first tried to do this Russian leaf, or this diagonal peyote, it was very confusing for me until I realized that when you pick up the three at the top and drop them down, all you're actually doing is creating a little square stitch between these two beads. If you think about it like that, it helps you to understand it just a little bit more. So now when I come down this time, I'm going to stop shy, one stitch shy of my edge, and do my decrease. And when you guys do this on your own, you're going to see these work up really relatively quick. They look beautiful. I have not tried them with the seed beads yet, but they look extremely beautiful with the Delicas. And I don't use a lot of Delicas. I don't do a lot of like flat peyote pattern type thingies. I probably should. Mostly what I use my Delicas for are peyote bezels for cabochons and fancy stones from Swarovski or Preciosa. Very stingy with them because they're so expensive. All right, I got something hung up there. Let me see what's going on. All right, here we go. You make sure, if you see something like that happening where you feel something weird going on, it probably means your bead's hung up on some of these little accents here. So just pay attention. And once again, we're going to come through the last stitch up here because we're increasing. I could probably cut that tail thread. As you guys can tell, it's getting on my nerves. Pick up my 3 for the increase and drop them down. If you have trouble with this, a good technique is to get those beads where you want them. Bring your working thread behind your finger like that and pinch it right here between these 2 fingers. That way you have a lot more stability with those 3 loose beads when you want to come back through the first one you picked up. It helps you to get them close to, keep them close to the beadwork. I do a lot of pinching with my fingers when I'm doing peyote. And take my next stitch just to pull everything firm. Peyote down, stopping one shy. So that one's trying to twist a little bit, but I'll fix them when I get back up to the top for my increase. So I've got one more to do, and now I can do my decrease. Miyuki Delica. Let's go right back in the opposite direction. Ouch. Might be leaving a little DNA on this earring. Just stab myself with that needle. Coming all the way back up. And now I need to straighten up that little twist, so I'm going to pick up my Delica and going through my Delica to pull that around. And there it has pulled around, just like that. And I think I might have done something wrong, guys. I'm pretty sure I did. I got a problem here. You see what I've done? I'm going to show you this mistake. I could tell I had an extra bead sticking out. I couldn't figure out why. I've accidentally went through this bead the wrong way somehow. So let's see. Let me take this one off my needle. When you mess up, then it becomes kind of like this weird little, guessing game thing. Somehow, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. I should be coming out of my Delica right here, and for some reason, it doesn't seem like I am. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this little stitch of stuff right here back out. So just bear with me. And I like to take my needle off when I have to do this, because if you don't, then potentially you're just going to keep making a bigger mess as you go along. And I'm going to pull those beads right off there. And I pulled a whole bunch out. So I think what I did was I screwed up my entire row. I did. That's okay. I'll just rethread and regroup. Give me just a second, folks. So what happened is I messed up somehow terribly. And by doing that, when I tried to pull it out, I actually just pulled out a whole row. And I've got the beads laying everywhere to prove it. So what I want to do here is I'm going to rethread my needle. And I'm going to fix it all back up. That's why I like taking my thread off my needle, because if I'd have been poking around in these stitches trying to figure out what I did wrong, I potentially, and most times I do, put a knot in another knot and another knot, and then I wind up having to cut everything apart, and then I have to start all over, and I really don't like that. So it's just a lot easier to take the needle off, pull some beads out, put the needle back on, and get back with the program. So here I have 1, 2, 3 on the bottom. I only have 2 on the top, so that tells me I have to do my increase. So Delica, seed bead, Delica. And I got beads all over the place, folks. That's okay. Come back through that first one towards myself. Wiggle my little stubborn Toho. And then come down my row. And I had pulled a little bit of that beadwork loose right there, but if you'll notice, when I got down to this stitch, I just put my thumb on it, tugged it back over the existing beadwork, and it straightened it up. I'm going to come down here and stop one shy again, and redo this decrease that I had just done, because I just pulled it out completely on accident. I've got this bright light over here to my right. And I've got it like that so you guys can see a little bit better what I'm doing. But it really makes it hard for me to see because it's above the camera here. So it's more directly going towards my eyes. But there's neither one's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. So sometimes it's a little bit hard for me to see what's exactly happening with my beadwork. So now I've done my decrease and I'm coming back up. Coming all the way to the end. So I can do a new increase. So now I'm going to try to get this part right. Delica seed bead, Delica. Come down. Come back through the first one I picked up right there at the top of the beadwork. Roll that off my finger. Then I'm going to make my next stitch. Pick up one, come through the next sticking out. And got another one of these little twisties that just doesn't want to behave. We'll fix it in a minute when we get back up. I'm going to stop the one shy. Do our decrease. Pick up our seed bead and our Delica. Go through the first one sticking out in the opposite direction. Peyote all the way up. Come all the way to the end, peyoting through just the Delicas. Time for our increase. Delica seed bead, Delica. Bring them down. Come through just that Delica right there. That's your first one you picked up out of the three. Closest to your beadwork. Alright. So probably what I will do is once we've finished with the live recording, because this is going kind of long and that's okay, I can edit it down a little bit shorter, you know, show you how to get started, show you the turns, things like that. But I may not. Because the whole reason I'm doing live tutorials now is to free up my time somewhat from all the uploading hours and editing hours on YouTube. So now I'm going to do my decrease. I've picked up my seed bead in my Delica, stopped one stitch short of the end of the row, come back in the opposite direction, and work my way back up. Alright, so now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're getting there. Increase here. Just a little tidbit. I like this black satin fire line. It has a totally different feel to the old smoke kind that turns your fingers black as soot. It's very satiny and silky feeling. This is the first little spool of it that I bought, and I'm trying it out. And just to be honest with you, so far I really like it a lot. See, now I had to wiggle there just a little bit, and I kind of pulled my last bead out of position, so I'm bringing it across the beadwork and tightening it back into position. Alright, so now I'm coming down. Just regular old peyote. Regular old peyote. I think I crossed my thread through my loop here. And I gotta get out of it. I've come the wrong way or something here. I don't know how I went through that bead the wrong way, but I did. There we go. Stopping short. Doing my decrease. Seed bead Delica. These live things don't work out so great for me. Then the next thing I'm going to do is just do live recording. And then do just a little bit of editing. The problem I have, and the reason I'm trying this, is because I live out in the country. And we have DSL, but DSL is really crappy here, okay? And that's why the video qualities have not been the best on this live. And I apologize for that. But we can't even get cable TV where I actually live. So I can't get cable internet. And we don't want satellite. We tried that and it really didn't work that good either because we're out in the mountains and the woods and it just was not worth the money. It didn't work any better than the DSL. But there's my increase. Coming down. Couple stitches. And now my decrease. And we'll come all the way back up. Back to the top. And now it's time for my increase. And what's really neat about this, it doesn't take that many seed beads. It really doesn't. It's like a teaspoon or so of Delicas and less than 50 of your edge beads here. And then just another little tiny cup full of the gold color to create the loop at the top. So there's my increase. And I have to come down, pull that stitch nice and into position. One little loosey-goose stitch there at the top of your increase. And now I'm going to take a look and see what I did wrong. And I see exactly what I did wrong. So unfortunately I got to come back out of all this work. And I'll tell you why. My accent bead, unfortunately, on the bottom of that row, somehow wound up being a Delica instead of a seed bead. So now, I'm going to come out of all this work. And I'm going to try to do it without taking the needle off because it's just like becoming a very long video here. And that didn't work, so I'm going to have to pull it. There we go. Now this top part, let's see what we can do about that. Alright, so to start with, I'm going to pull these two back away from it. And then come through that Delica. Voila. I had to take my increase off, and now I got to work back down and take these beads off. could have just left it, but I'm not going to because I have a jewelry store on my website. And I have a gallery that is displaying my items for sale, and hopefully, see, now there's a real problem. Yeah, definitely be editing some of this out once it's all said and done. Now I've made a real problem right there because I should have went ahead and pulled my needle off, guys, and I didn't do it. I was trying to be slick, and I out-slicked myself. So now I'm going to have to pull it off. While I'm at it, I might have to find one that's not quite so bent. Let me get this pulled out. If I can figure out how I was pulling it right there. And I'm just going to go ahead and leave it off. And get this last bit out down here at the bottom where I really made the really ridiculous mistake. Alright. So it's not a perfect world today for the Alluring Bead Boutique beater. Which I don't have perfect, I don't get it perfect several times a week. But I still keep at it. I'm going to thread my needle back. If you guys give me just 1 second here, because I'm having trouble with this light. Driving me blind. I may just have to get out a new needle. This one is really bent. Alright, just 1 second, folks. Now a word from our sponsor. Which I don't really have a sponsor, but if I did, it would be pony beading needles. I like these ponies. They work good for me. Of course, I'm not going to tell you that, oh, they're the best of everything, because I haven't tried that many different kinds. I started out with some junk needles from Walmart and some cheap needles from Fire Mountain Gems about a year and a half ago. And I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and give a shot to these because they're relatively inexpensive. You can get a pack of 25 for a couple of dollars on the right websites. And they thread pretty easily. And they're flexibles, which that's why they bend easily, but they don't break. They bend. All right, so now I'm going to have to count my accent beads so I can see exactly where I am in the grand scheme of things. So I have 8 here and 7 here. So that means I've already done that turnaround, and I tried to turn around again. So what I must have accidentally just picked up 2 Delicas. So now I have to come up the top. And sorry about the little technical difficulty, guys, but, you know, stuff happens in the beading world. Now I'm at the top. Now I'm going to go ahead and get rid of my tail thread while I'm at it, because it's really getting annoying. I'm just going to take my scissors and cut it off. Okay, folks, now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. So when I add this increase, I will be 8 on both sides. And I'll just have a couple of more things to do, and we're done. So I picked up my 3 beads. I'm coming back through the first one I picked up. I'm going to cinch it down to my beadwork just a little. I was off the mark. Try to position my little Toho so it sits beside the Delica. And then take my next stitch to firm it up. So now I have my 8 on each side. I've got 1 more to do on each side. I'll work my way down, stop the one shy. And now do my last decrease. Sorry about that. Last decrease. Come up to the top. Okay, so here we are back at the top. We got to do our last little increase. And then we'll have the exact same amount of beads on both sides of our beadwork. And you can see on this side, this one's still trying to twist around a little bit. We're going to straighten that up when we join our ends together. So let's do our last increase. Delica, seed bead Delica. Drop them down. Come back through the first one you picked up right there, closest to your beadwork. Pull everything through. Cinch that down to your beadwork. Now this time we're going to come all the way down, just like we did on the other side of this edge here. So we're going to peyote, just like we've been doing, but because we don't have any more decreases, we're going to come all the way down and put that last bead. I'm just going to pass just through the Delica here at the end, like that. I'm putting one more bead right there. Alright folks, now the hard part's over, and I really appreciate you guys hanging in here with me. So we're going to come up and we're going to connect this piece up here at the top, just like that. Then all we have to do is create this little loop and put our little crystal in. So we got to weave just a little bit here. We're down here, coming out this lower edge. We need to be coming out of that Delica bead up here at the top edge. So you're coming out right there, just pop over one bead over, and then move up on a diagonal. So let me take a look, because I'm a little struggling with the light. I'm getting into that Delica right there, and then I'm going to pass through those next three also on the diagonal, just like that. And I'm coming out at the edge, the narrow edge of this strip right here. So now I'm coming out of that one right there on the edge. So now I'm going to go two at a time, just like this. So I'm coming out of the one I want to be coming out of. Alright, so I need to get that little thing to quit hanging up. Alright. Now, coming out of this one, I've got these two right there. And then two more right there at the tip. And I'm giving credit where credit's due, because I did, use Jill's, at least one I know of her Russian leaf tutorial to get this far, right? So now we're going to add the Datrina flavor to this regular old Russian leaf. And what I did was, first of all, let me pick up a few of these beads I knocked all over God's creation. Now we're going to be connecting our two tips. We have a Delica here. We have a Delica here. So just pick up three little Delica beads, just like that. You're coming out of the top of this one. I want you to go down through the top of the one on the opposite tip, just like that. And we're working with just the Delicas on that. Pull it over into position. So now I want you to take a look and see how this beadwork actually looks. Let me lay it down. This is what we're doing. We're creating this little bridge of beads right in here, like that. But before I pull it tight, I need to be able to get back up coming out of this Delica going back so I can reinforce, right? So I'm coming out right here. What I want to do I've passed through this tip. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come down through that center bead, Delica, right here, and one more to the inside edge. So I'm passing through those 2 beads also for a total of 3. When you pull, make sure your little beadwork lays the way you want it to, like so. Now I'm in a good spot to where I can come back up into this little section of the 3 ones I picked up. So my thread is exiting this Delica right here by that seed bead. I'm going to go through the one right next to it, and then come on the diagonal through all 3 of those Delicas right there until I'm coming back in the opposite direction through that same tip Delica. And when I pull everything, my threads will suck right into those intersections. I don't have any exposed thread showing. And my beadwork looks okay, except for I've got that one twisted bead right there. So twist my accent bead back to the center. And now I'm going to make sure it really stays put, because I'm going to come back through those Delicas that I added in the center of this beadwork. So it was coming out of that tip bead. I'm going to push through the 3 I picked up, plus the Delica on the other side over here. So there's the 3. And now here's my tip bead. And this time I want to come just through 2 of my Delicas here. I'm coming through the tip bead and the very next one. And I have a reason for that. Now, I don't want to go to the inside edge, because what I want to do is work my way back to where I'm exiting that seed bead going in that direction. So I need to come through one more Delica here on this side of my beadwork, right there. Now I can cross through the seed bead right beside of it, the Delica bead right beside of it, going back towards the center of the C-ring. And to get into my seed bead, I still have to pass through the next Delica and the seed bead. The little Delica sitting kind of like in the middle by itself there. And then, well, I'm going to have to take it a stitch at a time, folks. So go through that Delica, and then go through that seed bead right next there, right above it. And now you can see we have our little Russian leaf shape. All of our accent beads, except for this little pain in the butt, are looking pretty good. But now I'm going to pull this one around to where he can't roll on me at all anymore. I'm not sure why it's still trying to roll, but that's okay, because now I'm getting ready to do some work to put this little pile of gold seed beads in my little dangle right here. And what I did was I actually put a Delica right here between these 2 accent beads. So I'm coming out of that accent bead. I need to pick up a Delica. Now I'm going to come through this accent bead right here. Now I need to work around again, so come through the next Delica. There's my accent bead. There's a Delica sitting underneath the accent bead and its Delica. Come through that, and the next Delica going towards the underside edge, right there. And then I'll flip my work. Because now I'm going to come back through the Delica right next door and one more Delica up above it. See if I can get this lighting to where you can see what I'm doing. I'm coming through. There's the Delica my thread's exiting. I'm going to move to the Delica next door, coming back this way, and push through those 2 Delicas. Now I can come through my seed bead and my Delica right here. Alright, so now I need my crystal and a couple of these little rose gold seed beads. So I picked up 2 of my rose gold seed beads. Make sure so I do everything the same on both earrings. Then I picked up my crystal and I passed through the hole. Then 2 more of my rose gold seed beads. I'm coming out of that Delica to the right. So I want to take my needle and I'm going to pass through the Delica from left to right. Well, that is if I'm working this way. And now you can see that I have my little crystal there in position. What I want to do is tighten this all up. So I'm going to go back through all those beads again, and I'm going to pinch really tight. Go down the 2 gold seed beads. Let me get my work finagled to where it's going to work for me, guys. So now I've gone down those seed beads, and I'm pulling really snug. Dang, I'm keep dropping my beads. Now I'm going to come through my crystal one more time. And I'm going to go up the 2 seed beads on the right-hand side, just like that. And I'm going to pull that snug. Then I'm going to come back through that Delica one more time. And when I do that, I'm going to pass on through my seed bead and the next couple of Delicas that I can get through on the diagonal. Well, first I'm just going to go through my Delica and my seed bead because I'm struggling. Struggling to see my actual Delica there. So now I'm coming out of that seed bead. Now I can get into my 2 Delicas on the diagonal. And I'm coming out that backside edge right there through those couple of little Delicas right there. When I do that, I'm going to pull that nice and snug. Then I'm going to wiggle around and make sure that my little crystal section looks pretty good. And it does. Now when we put our loop, it's going to, give all a little bit more firmness to this section right here. So we're going to figure out how we got to get back up into that section. So we're coming out of that Delica. We can go into the Delica next to it in the opposite direction and work on the diagonal through the next 3 Delicas just like that, or the next 2. So you're going through a total of 3. Pull your thread. Now, in this little section here at the top, we have 3 Delicas that we added to our tip beads. This is my tip bead because my seed bead's sitting right beside it. There's my tip bead there. So I need to pass through just 2 more. Actually, I'm going to pass through 1. I want to only come up into the first of those 3. Now we're going to use our little wire protector, just like we did right here. So to do that, I picked up 3 seed beads, gold. Then you come up through one side of your horseshoe wire protector in that fashion. Drop it all down. Now, you want to come back through your wire guardian on the other side, working back down towards your beadwork, just like this. When you pull your thread, make sure it sits in the little groove right here at the top of your wire protector. And it doesn't come down like this right here. See where it's down out of the groove? Pull it into the groove. And once you, right here, I want you to come back through just that top seed bead. Just the top one. And then we'll worry about getting everything in the right spots. Okay, so now, there we are. And I've got my wire protector on. And I've come back through that little seed bead right there. So now I just need to pick up 2 more seed beads of my gold. And I'm going to skip this one Delica in the middle. And I'm going to go through this third Delica of the 3 that I added here at the top. Like that. Now I need to come through my tip Delica, which is right here beside my seed bead. And I need to go through 3 Delicas on the diagonal. So give me just 1 minute to get my needle right. Okay, so I'm going to come through those 3 Delicas right there. And if you'll notice, when I pull, it really makes that look a lot better. We're going to make it look even better in a few minutes. First, we're going to go back and reinforce that little loop. So I'm coming out of that Delica, and there's the one sitting right here beside of it. I'm going to go back up through that Delica that's sitting next door, and then I'm going to come up through the next 1, 2, 3 Delicas. Just like that. And that puts me right back to where I can come back through my wire protector by coming up 2 seed beads right there on the side. Then this seed bead right in the center. I'm working from this side of my beadwork, so I'm going to come up this side of my wire guardian. Now I'm going to work down this side. And come back through this side of my protector. Making sure I get in the groove right there at the top. Now I'm going to come back through the center seed bead one last time. And then down these 2 seed beads on this side. Then I can go back into the Delica. And pass down through as many little Delicas as I can get through on a diagonal. Because now we're going to end this thread. I'm going to take a look and make sure everything looks pretty. If your wire protector doesn't sit centered right here on top of that seed bead, all you have to do is take your little chain nose pliers and just squeeze it just a little bit till it has a nice centered look there above that seed bead. And then you have the options of how you want to end your thread. Of course, you can weave it off, or you could tie some knots. For this particular earring, I'm going to do some knots. No, I'm not. I think I'm just going to go ahead and weave off. It's just, I don't like doing knots on this tiny peyote. So now I'm coming out right there, out of that Delica. So I'm just going to take my needle, and I'm going to move on the diagonal down through as many as I can get through. And don't skip any. And I got through quite a few. So I'm coming through all those Delicas there. And I'm coming on the diagonal. Make sure I don't get anything all really messed up here. You can see all my thread is sucked into the intersections. And now, to weave off, you want to try to make sure you go in both directions a few times. So here I am coming out right there. So I need to go in the opposite direction just a little bit. So I'm going to go up through the bead right next to it, and I'm moving through those 3 Delicas here in the other direction. Since it's an earring, it really won't receive a lot of wear and tear like, you know, bracelets and things do at the clasp or like ring bands. So you don't really have to do this too many times. So I'm coming out right here out of that Delica. I need to go into the Delica, which is right next to it. And I'm going to go back on the diagonal in the opposite direction. And then we'll pass up one more time. So I'm coming out. Make sure exactly where I am coming out. I'm having a really hard time with this light. Anyway, I'm coming out right here. So I just need to go up through a few right here. Next to it. Make sure I'm next to it, guys. Give me 1 second. Let me check my light. Where I can see. Okay, so I'm into the right bead right next door. And I'm just passing up a few and pulling my thread through. And I'm going to go ahead and end my thread. And I take my scissors. And voila. I have this beautiful component ready to put my ear wire on. To do that, I made this ear wire with a rose gold plated eye pin. And I know you're not supposed to really open it that way, but that's how I do. And make sure you're putting it in the right direction onto your ear wire. And then just close your little loop back up. Nice and snug. So your ear wire cannot come out. And there it is, folks. The beautiful little tantalizing Tanzanite earrings. Alright, so that took a little longer than I had expected, but that's okay. Like I said, I will probably go ahead and, you know, edit some of this out. But I'm going to put a bunch of links into the description box below for my newsletter and a link for you to follow the Bead Map blog. And I would love to keep on with this version, and I would like to be able to eventually start doing a few little live workshops where we can work on perfecting stitches and techniques and utilize the chat feature of this live format so we can ask questions or we can talk to each other and help each other improve some of our techniques and things like that. That's one thing that I'd really like to accomplish with this eventually. But for right now, I'm pretty happy with just saving myself a lot of time by doing my tutorials live. Alright guys, so that's Detrina from the Alluring Bead Boutique. Just a couple of quick things. I did a pattern for this beautiful bracelet. And I'm not sure why I can't get this camera to function right now, but whatever. So I've got this gorgeous bracelet I did using square stitch. You know, come out so pretty. But with my bead choices and everything, it reminded me of, like, at first, of course, I would remind you of Cleopatra and everything like that, but everybody uses Cleopatra. So this one is the Queen of Atlantis. Because with this beautiful little check glass seed bead mix called Miami Surf, I thought, well, that's perfect. That's more oceany. And with the beautiful emerald, silver lined emerald, it really looks like, you know, something that would come from Atlantis. So I have a pattern for that. It will be posted later today. I have a new Skillshare class getting ready to be published probably by Sunday, maybe tomorrow, for this beautiful Desert Blooms bracelet. You know, as a bonus at the end of that class, I make these, I'll show you how to make these cute little spiky charms for it, but there's the Desert Bloom bracelet. It's a really pretty bracelet. I love it. That you can use my Skillshare link. You will get 2 free months. And like I said, you'd be helping me out. I have a lot of other classes over there that I don't have on YouTube. So it's something new and refreshing. And then check out my patterns and stuff at my website at thealluringbeadboutique.com. You guys have a great day, and I will see you next time.